In this video, we'll return to the idea of sacrifice as a central component to Aztec mythology and introduce some of the key players in the pantheon of gods for the Aztecs. I'm beginning with several images of skulls. So in the upper left, we have a skull, an actual human skull that's been embedded with turquoise and obsidian. This actually would have been worn as a mask and danced. In the bottom right, we see a photograph of the skull rack. There were thought to be about 60 skulls kind of embedded into the architecture in this image. On the other images are depictions from the chronicles. On the bottom left, we have the two temples, Huitzilopochtli associated with the hummingbird, and Tlaloc on the left, and then the skull rack on the right, and then the upper right, bloodletting. And so the cosmology here, the belief system, is very body-centered, right? You take the remains of the body and you do things with them, display them, and so on. You give your life force, which is your blood. So we have a high-ranking member of society, bloodletting, in the upper right. And you give sacrifices to these deities in order for life to perpetuate and to continue. Our key players, again, are Huitzilopochtli, and he is associated with warfare, and the sun, dryness, and his temple aligns with the summer solstice. Tlaloc, who is the god of peace and the color blue, associated with rain and fertility, and his temple aligns with the winter equinox. So we have this duality or this complementarity between these sort of opposite extremes, or these opposite forces. Tlaloc's animal is the snake. He's holding a snake in his hand, and that glyph coming out of his mouth indicates who he is as well. On the left, the drawing on the left, snakes or serpents are thought of in Mexica iconography as liquid, or the flowing of liquid. In this case, it's rain, the flowing of rain. But we'll also see serpents referencing blood, the flowing of blood. So these two very important, necessary components. I'm introducing now Coatlicue, who you'll see another video of, but she is a massive stone sculpture about 9 feet tall that was seen by the Spanish covered in blood. And they found her so grotesque and unappetizing that they buried her. And in fact, she wasn't unearthed until 1790 in present-day Mexico City. She was located inside Huitzilopochtli's temple. So up on top of the Templo Mayor, she was found inside Huitzilopochtli's temple, covered in blood. So the thought is that sacrifices that would have been taken place up there on top of the temple would have been offered to her, given to her. Notice she actually even wears a necklace of human hearts and human hands. And then that body would be allowed to roll down the steps after sacrifice. Coatlicue, I'm talking about her, saying her. It is a female figure. She has breasts, but otherwise she doesn't look very human, right? Where her head should be are two serpents facing one another in profile. Her hands are claws, her feet are talons, and she has this skirt, this interesting skirt. And in the Mexica language, Coatlicue actually means snakes her skirt, snakes her skirt. So her skirt is intended to be a intertwining of serpents. Her head also becomes serpents. And she's thought of in Mexica cosmology as the earth goddess, the mother goddess, the giver of life, the sort of matriarch of all life on earth and fertility. She gives life, but she also demands it. She takes life. She requires offerings. She's associated with the fifth era. The idea is that she sacrificed herself because she is headless for this fifth era to continue, but she also requires sacrifice for things to continue as well. Her central ornament there on her necklace is a skull, and so there's a lot of references to the insides of bodies, to body parts, and to blood with the flowing of her skirt. Here she is on the left and the bottom right inside the museum where she stands today in Mexico City. And then an image from the Codex, which the Codex Florentine describes her as she of the serpent skirt, a woman there with snakes flowing from her apron. This is her daughter. So I want to show you the mother-daughter. This is Coil Shalki. Coil Shalki is a large carved stone disc. And Coil Shalki was found at the bottom of the steps. So as victims would have been given their blood offerings to the mother, they would then roll down the stairs and land on Coil Shalki. And as those victims have been dismembered, Coil Shalki is dismembered. Now, if you look at the figure for a minute, she should look more human-like than her mother, because she actually has a head, she has breasts, she has arms and legs. But if we look closely, her head and her arms and legs have all been severed. So she's been dismembered and decapitated as well. She has attributes of the deceased as well. She's got a skull. Her belt has snakes on it, so the reference to blood and the giving of blood. She would have been painted originally, and so you'll see in the video the red color behind her. She is associated with the moon. So Coil Shalki is the moon goddess. Now, in order to understand why these are important, in terms of sacrifice and cosmology, I want to get to the myth, but here's a nice image of Coil Shalki being worked on, so you can see how really massive and large she is. And her name, Coil Shalki, means bells her cheeks. So if you look at this image of her face, you can see bells on her cheeks. These round discs on her cheek are bells. And so these goddesses are named after their dress, bells her cheeks, serpent skirt. And even Coil Shalki has see that little snake by her forehead, a reference to the blood and flowing of blood. Okay, so here we have Coil Shalki, the daughter, on the left, Coatlicue, the mother, on the right. And the story goes, this is from the Florentine Codex that the Spanish wrote, and the story goes that Coatlicue was sweeping the temple, and a ball of hummingbird feathers penetrated her apron, and she became pregnant. This immaculate conception resulted in Huitzilopochtli. So remember, our sun god, he is now a baby inside his mother's tummy, inside Coatlicue. Coil Shalki, the moon goddess, and her brothers and sisters, the stars, learn of this pregnancy, and they are jealous, and they plot to kill their mother and to kill this unborn child. Huitzilopochtli, who's inside the tummy, hears this, and he springs forth, fully armored with his sword, and he cuts off Coil Shalki's head and her limbs. So we have this idea of this very violent sort of relationship between these family members. But if we think about this in terms of the celestial realm, we have the sun and the moon in battle, right? And it's not just that sacrifice was important every 52 years, but every dusk, every dawn, because at that time the moon and the sun are battling. The sun is following the moon across the sky. The sun is stronger. Remember, the moon waxes and wanes. It's not as powerful, not as strong. But this myth, this story about this brother and sister fighting, is not just something that happened in the past. It's something that happens all the time. Every 12 hours, there's some kind of battle going on in the sky. And so the Mexica really felt like it was their duty to give in order for this moving sky, this moving sun, to continue in life. Coatlicue, again, the mother, the giver, she's given herself and sacrificed herself, but she also requires sacrifice for the world to go on the way it is. Here's Coil Shalki again, depicted in stone, and Huitzilopochtli, a drawing from a codex. But again, this brother and sister pairing that relates to the cosmos, it relates to the celestial sky and the understanding of the sky. So hopefully you're getting a sense of why sacrifice was so central. In order for the moon and the sun and the stars and the earth to to do what they need to do for us to be alive, they're requiring sacrifice.